What's going on, everybody? Really hope that you had a great end to 2020. Here we are rolling hard in 2021. Our first kind of kickoff. We've been waiting for a while. We knew something was coming, and Fantasy Flight has just dropped some spoilers for Star-Lord Peter Quill Adventure Pack. Corey, where's your excitement level? Where's your excitement level at?
I mean, I'm surprised. We didn't really have an idea of when we were going to be getting new content. Like, we knew it had to be coming soon. But with a lot of the delays happening, we just weren't really sure when we were going to see something new. So it's exciting. Like, I'm really digging what the cards we're going to talk about today. So I'm kind of... I'm fairly high on the excitement scale.
I will... Do you want to know my opinion before we see the cards, or should I save it to the end?
Why don't you save it to the end?
Okay.
Because I want to see if I can guess.
Guys, welcome
That's
to
what we're talking about.
welcome to Bad Publicity Gaming. We're going to get into it right now. Here we go, Corey. Why don't you walk us through this adventure? We are looking at Peter Quill right now.
That's right. So obviously, Star-Lord pack, we got to start with his alter ego, Peter Quill. So he is an outlaw. He has a setup effect that you can search your deck and discard pile for a copy of the Element Gun upgrade and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. He is a smooth talker. So as an action, you can choose a card in your hand and swap that card with the top card of your deck. And you can do that once per round. He has a hand size 6, 10 hit points, and a 3 recovery.
Anything that stands out here as things that you thought would have been different by looking at it? I'll start off by saying I thought the hit points would be a lot lower from him just being kind of humanish, like really other than some of tech, he doesn't really have that big of a superpower,
Yeah. I could have seen him as maybe like an 8 hit point. So 10s is kind of like a good buffer. And I guess maybe because he's like the leader of the Guardians and stuff like that, they wanted to have him just be able to take a little bit more of a punch. But there's nothing that doesn't really jump out. Like he's got to have like his element gun, because that's like his weapon, right? Because like he has to have that. It's his thing. So like I understand that. It's cool to see the setup abilities, like we've seen other heroes, like Thor and stuff like that. That lets you go and grab like a critical component of the deck, so you make sure you have it, so you're not just trying to fish for this one card. And his swap ability is pretty interesting because you don't know what's on the top, right? But you're kind of, it kind of helps in a situation where like you get a card that you either can't afford but like you really want to keep. You can bank it so you're not discarding it. It's not clunking up your hand. You're going to draw it on the next turn, and then pull out something that roll the dice again and see if you get something that's better. So even if you think on cards like, God, why does he come up in every episode? But if you think of like the ally, like Incredible Hulk, you could also use this ability to like see the top of your deck, so you know what symbol you're going to flip when triggering his ability, which is pretty cute.
I mean, so another standout for me is as we get into it, you guys will see how we perceive Peter Quill Star-Lord to work. I am honestly surprised he's sitting with a 3 recovery. I don't know if that's a sweet spot. Probably came from testing just to actually, give yourself a challenge in this game. I don't think he could be lower. But I'm very curious if there was a lot of testing to see him at a 4 recovery, because of the amount. So his theme here is very high risk, high reward. It's pushing this, this level of danger and chaos that you're going to create on the board with the mechanic. And I think that is going to really, force you to be ready and heal up. From what we've seen, I don't know how he's fully going to play, but it's really going to be interesting for the amount of people that you're going to be fighting or doing things with, and the recovery was 3. So that was my kind of, after I looked at the whole sheet, went back, and I can kind of put this under a spotlight now. The other thing that I'm really, really glad with Peter Quill is they went kind of with a Captain America approach to this card. So I guess, Captain America is that time-tested and true leadership character for your Avengers ground forces. Peter Quill's going to be that staple leader character for space and the Guardians. So I'm glad they looked at giving Peter Quill 2 powers. And what I mean by that is Captain America, what you can do with him when you compare it to Thor was basically just search your deck and find your hammer. That was it, right? Now, truth be told, that was very thematic for him and for what it was. But with Captain America, you were looking for the shield, and you also had this ongoing living legend ability, reducing the cost of the allies. So I'm glad that Peter Quill got the setup and an action, in the game, because without it, I just think it would be wonkers. Although with this one here, because it's a setup, if something happens and you lose your gun, it doesn't look like you're really able to get that back right now.
Right. It's a one shot, and if something unfortunate happens off the off the deck, sad face. Yeah. But I do agree. I do like the fact that he has another ability, much like Captain America, which gives him something else to do aside from just getting the starting piece of equipment. Yeah. And it's true. It's actually funny to think about that. It's both leaders of different factions have this kind of same little template of grab an item, get a cool ability that helps either dig through deck or bring things out cheaper and stuff like that. So
cool. Ready to flip?
Yeah, let's flip them. So when we flip over to the hero, to the Star-Lord side, Star-Lord is 2 thwart, 2 attack, 1 defense. He's a Guardian, but he also has this really cool thing where each ally you control gains the Guardian trait. And he has this ability called What Could Go Wrong? As an interrupt, when you play a card from your hand, deal yourself 1 face-down encounter card, and then you reduce the resource cost to play that card by 3. And you can do that once per round. The only other change is his hand size drops from 6 to a 5. So, not bad. So this deck is going to come as a leadership aspect, if we hadn't mentioned that already. So, I love that top ability. He's automatically going to give this keyword to all his allies. That's really cool. And if you listen to us talk on the Scarlet Witch cast, we tend to really love pushing your luck type mechanisms. I think it can kind of take the quarterbacking a little bit out of the game to where you can actually play your game a bit more, and you can decide to take these risks and do things like that. And I think the resource cost by 3 reduction can be really strong for getting some of those really good setup cards. You could get a free helicarrier, right? That's awesome. So there's just really cool things you can do with that ability, especially with some of the bigger allies, right? Maybe some of the bigger allies could see play. The ones that they're priced up a little too high because Star-Lord can get them out a lot cheaper.
You ready for my take?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So, Star-Lord Peter Quill, from my perspective and for my play style and everything about the Marvel game, this is the best hero I have seen to date. I was pumped for the chaos that, like you said, Corey, you led into it. Yeah. The excitement that Scarlet Witch was going to bring. I think Peter Quill is going to be the true gamer's hero. There's a lot of people that are Marvel fans, and they were heavy into this game. They were, kind of, I'm not going to say handicapped, but they weren't let loose. They weren't, that devastation wasn't there. I feel like the only way to up the difficulty of this game was adjusting it on the the villain side and the modular sets and what you're getting from there. Peter Quill is going to bring an incredible play experience, and I am really shocked and blown away looking at this, because if you know anything, from what I've said in the past about how much I haven't been an ally person, Peter Quill plays this build is leadership. This is all ally. This is I can't envision, because of the synergy that's going on right now out of the gate. Keep in mind, like, both Corey and I have just read this and had dinner and jumped in to record here. So, but out of the gate, I can't see another way to play him outside of. I mean, obviously you can, but I don't see another star build coming out other than an allied Peter Quill, because of the synergies that we're going to see. You kind of stole my tricky thunder there, Corey. I'm not an ally. I'm not an ally player, because time and time again, maybe it's because the designers are a fan of Bad Publicity and they've been listening, so they create this they create this character that reduces the cost of those allies for me to put in, some of those higher cost allies that, like, this takes every ally card that we talked about before and just re-levels them all from a cost of or from a perspective of cost to the ability and what they're bringing on the table. This mechanic that we're seeing about dealing yourself one face down encounter, and pretty much during the encounter phase, you're going to have to now, take on all of these unknown risks that he's putting in front of you. You're going to rely all on your ally suite to jump in there, to get some damage, to do damage. So that's why I was talking about that 3 recovery was probably a well-tuned
agree.
Stat point. But I really, really, really like it. This is going to be a really challenging thing. We know how devastating encounters can be, especially if you've ever played at these different levels of difficulty where you're getting 2 encounter cards a turn, or if you're playing at normal and you're forced to your deck runs out, take an encounter card off to the side and stuff like that. That is his ability. That's his thing. You can't shy away from that, because you're going to want to embrace that to get the full fun and value out of him. So take advantage of it. You got to go head on, high risk, high reward. This is going to be incredible. I'm so pumped. I would say right now, if you could only buy one deck from what we've seen right now, from the thing, this is the deck to get if you've been waiting for it. If you've, like, I feel like if this was a video game, man, like, every other hero was just the tutorial, and now it's starting, man. Like This is what we've been waiting for. I am so excited.
Well, hell yeah. No, that's awesome. Like, honestly, there was like that lead up. I was a little nervous. Like, I don't know where he's going to go with this. Does he hate this hero? How do you hate this hero? And then I was like, oh, okay. No, I agree. Like, I love the theme of the idea of just like, hey, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to push it and see if I can beat the curve, right? Because he's trying to cheat kind of like the setup and get his pieces out faster than like you normally would in a game, in the hopes to like outpace effectively the villain. And if it works, glorious, right? Especially if you get like all of your reducers and everything start dropping out for free, you're ahead of the curve, you're then able to play all your cards, do all your stuff, you're not going to be bothered. But if those encounter cards come, the wrong way, you start to stagger a little bit, it can be trouble. But that's it. That's, as you mentioned, that high risk, high reward like play style that he's gonna embody. It's gonna be a blast. So
that swap mechanic's such an interesting mechanic too, to be able to just I don't need this card. Let me basically get a free draw. Like, I would have used this card in my hand for basically paying for a resource or whatnot, or even to set things up, right? Like, oh, look at, I've drawn this crazy expensive, or I don't know, like I've drawn this crazy expensive card. I can just get it over to Star-Lord, or I can dish it off. If I haven't, I can just kind of cycle back and forth, get a free peek almost, dish something off. Like there's just so many cool moving pieces so far from just looking at these two cards. And obviously, something that's interesting to consider is that if you go back, if you're someone that looks at the rest of the card pool, Corey, each ally you control gains the Guardian trait. We haven't seen, too many Guardians allies out. Like, we don't know how they're going to release them. We've seen Rocket and Groot in the box set. Obviously, this only applies to allies, so both of them hold the Guardian trait only on their hero side, just like Peter Quill is an outlaw and alter ego. Not that makes sense from we're talking still about allies that you control, but I mean, it's kind of cool how anybody can be recruited into the Guardians almost, right? So it's got that thematic tie,
which is very thematic. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm so excited. I'm just talking to my brain's talking a little too fast.
But it's also like really cool on this too. Like, think about when we built Leadership Avengers decks, like how locked in you were. Either like they have to have the Avengers keyword so I can make these other synergies and stuff work. If they don't have that keyword, they won't get this benefit, or they may not play this card to get this buff. And then they even made cards that could give the Avengers keyword to stuff. And you're like, I don't really want to play with these. That's really clunky. It could be a dead card if I don't have it come up this way. It created some deck building challenges that Star-Lord is just like, I don't worry about that. Are you an ally? You got Guardian, baby. We're in there.
So right, because they put it on the hero card, right? So that whole the way they did the Avengers trait, that was a learning opportunity, because like you said, I don't feel that I am not compelled to play or to map out anything around there, because putting out that cards like that have to synergize or I'm going to give Avengers to things, they got to come up in certain orders and stuff like that. This is the leader just giving that out and doing, like, going to town. This synergy is going to be incredible. And
agreed.
And this is again, I hate to always say this, right? But again, it's something that we preach about constantly on the show, so we might as well start this year off like with these card games. The traits matter, right?
That's right.
So let's have that card interaction, play with that space, and I'm absolutely loving it. This is
sweet.
This is the pinnacle so far. If this is what we're seeing after all of the the game is kind of getting flushed out now, this is an amazing sign of things to come. It's ridiculous. All right.
I mean, they really set the bar, right? Because you go from like Scarlet Witch into like the Guardians Big Box and the Star-Lord, like some really cool heroes. So I'm excited. Mm-hmm. But it looks like we've got, 4 of his suite that got leaked or got spoiled in the article. Yeah. I think that's right. So we have 4 more cards to burn through. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's move. Everyone's heard us like wax poetic about Star-Lord. so we like him.
Just ramble all these cards off, and then we'll talk about them in general.
Sure. So the first one that was talked about is Leader of the Guardians. It's a 3-cost upgrade with a science resource. Each Guardian character you control gets +1 thwart.
Boom.
And it's a persistent upgrade. So cool. That's the first one we got. Then we've got Daring Escape. It's a 0-cost event. Deal your hero action. Deal yourself 1 face-down encounter card. Ready your hero and draw 1 card. Pretty neat. Okay. Then Sliding Shot. 3-cost event that's an attack. Play only if you control an element gun. So Element Gun was not in the article, so we don't know what Element Gun does. We just know that you're going to get to start with it in your hand.
The art was
As a hero action attack, you deal 5 damage to an enemy, and then deal 2 additional damage to that enemy for each face-down encounter card in front of you. And then finally, we have Star-Lord's helmet. which is armor. It's a tech upgrade. While you're in hero form, you get +1 hand size for each face down encounter card in front of you to a maximum of +3.
You ever wonder why they classify it a helmet instead of just a face mask?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it goes like all around. He's like, I don't know who designs the helmet where it's like I gotta have my hair flowing out. You gotta get that cool factor.
But isn't it like I always thought like it
doesn't seem very.
But you know, like if you look at the old school war helmets, that they're just like little buckets on their heads, right? And those are helmets, you know, and they only cover
right. It's
like so I feel like the very definition of the very bare minimum that you need to classify as a helmet, like he just doesn't have that.
Especially covering your head. Yeah. I don't know. Style, man. Yeah. Sometimes it's good style. So anyway, let's do some quick hits then. So
before I forget, right? The only way I'm going to be sadly disappointed is that if his Walkman is not a card. In the set.
That's true. Right? That should be like
or a
his
cassette tape, or the Walkman with a cassette. I mean, that would be bonkers.
Yeah. Like, don't drop the ball on this, FFG. Come on.
Yeah, or if there's some kind of, I don't know if they'd have the rights to do it because they probably have to pay some kind of royalty things if they add a song. Do you think song titles, like in Flavor Texas, would have been, I don't
know.
I don't know.
Okay. So,
leader of the Guardians.
I mean, yeah, I think it's solid. Like, he's going to get one. It's a 3-cost upgrade, which could be a free upgrade on his ability trigger, and it's a persistent +1 thwart for each Guardian character.
Right, and you're going to get each Guardian character you control. So this is basically, I feel, it's only talking about your allies that you bring in through your through the leadership piece. And basically anybody that you bring in while he is in hero form, you're giving out the Guardian title anyway, and now these people just get buffed out, right? So, I mean, again, it's the system done right. Start with this card because it just continues that whole conversation that we had about, I feel like the Avengers traits were just too clanky. This one, less moving pieces, balanced out with other more dangerous stuff on top.
Right. And that's where you get the daring escape, right? So it's another way to give him another encounter card aside from his ability to ready and draw a card. So for a free event, that's actually pretty cool. You'll probably see a couple of these in his deck. I would say he probably gets 2 of them. That just gives you a way to kind of like ready and draw a card at the risk of adding in that extra encounter. But as we're seeing off the other cards we talked about, sliding shot in his helmet, he also gets benefits for having more encounter cards down in front of him. So that stacks in more of the high risk, high reward, because it's like, yeah, we're going to get a lot of encounters, but my sliding shot's going to deal like 9 to 11 damage on its attack, and or I'll have an extra 3 hand size, so I can just keep, I can draw a ton of cards. I'll weather the storm, and then I can have a super turn going into the next round. So,
and then it all gets wiped out after you fight your.
That's right.
Fight your encounter cards.
I feel like a lot of his turn is just like, oh, you just wait. Just fingers crossed, everybody.
Yeah. So I really don't have much to say about some of these pieces. So I'll just run them down, very quickly, and we can get to some other weird questions. Daring escape again. So I really like this mechanic. I like the get in a counter card. Ready your hero up. 0 cost event. Awesome. Slingshot, high risk, high reward, 5 damage, deal 2 additional damage for each face down encounter card in front of you. Corey, any ideas? You want to take a guess about what you can be doing for how many encounter cards you think you're going to be able to take?
Yeah. I So it seems like looking at his helmet, they kind of want you to cap at 3, but this doesn't have a cap. So enough of his triggers, I wouldn't go nuts with this because you can everyone at the table will hate you at the end of your turn if the game's not over and you're sitting on like 4 or 5 encounter cards. Also just pack it in, everybody. Just pack it in. Let's go again. Yeah. But like if you're trying to build up to do like a massive thing to kind of kill the villain and end the game, I could see him going all in to do a bunch of his triggers to get a bunch of encounter cards, shuffle his deck, get an encounter card, all these little gimmicks to stack them up to then sling out like some big sliding shots to try to end the game.
No, yeah. Yeah, so that's where I look at the helmet and I'm like, max of 3. So do they only want us to have 3? Is it only possible to maybe get 3 encounter cards face down? Because
it looks like for that it accepts the benefit. It seems like you can get as many as you can generate, right?
Yeah, but that's only going to take into that's going to be a weird like timing and stuff like that, and because of draw ups and stuff, and if you can keep the helmet around. I think the other ones are self-explanatory. Here's the question to get to, Corey, is do you think his kit is going to be costly? Like we're looking here, we see a 0 cost event, we see a 1 cost upgrade, we see 2 3 cost other cards. Now we just talked about he's got that bonus, right? That he can lower the card you're going to play by 3. So that could help out. But do you feel that's really going to only be focused around the high-cost allies that you're trying to slide in there? Because some of these cards, I feel like they are balanced from the perspective of if I'm looking at Daring Escape, okay, it's a 0-cost event, but I really need to do that because I'm trading off, because I'm taking another encounter card, and that, like, what is the cost? What like that we're waiting an encounter card behind, like, is that worth 1 more card?
Right, and readying, because the readying is also important. Like if you're trying to clear a scheme, again, like as you mentioned, this is going to be, I think, like a really good like play style or experience, like play build up of being able to analyze and find out like when's a good time to play this card. Is it worth it? And I think as you get more and more reps with Star-Lord and play into the scenarios, you'll know like this is what I need to be careful for. This is a good window based on like the board state and where everyone else is at. So I think that's where the skill cap's going to come in, is making that decision. I think if you're just like willy-nillying, like rating and drawing cards every single chance you get, you're going to dig yourself a hole and you're not going to be able to get out of it. Yeah. So I think you need to be really smart. And that's also maybe where his other ability could be like, hey, it's not that good. I need to rest up. I'll put the alter ego. I'm going to top this, swap it out. Maybe I'll get something that'll set me up more and go with that. Mm-hmm. To circle back to your cost question, I feel like his kit's going to be costed pretty appropriately to like a standard hero. You may see him come with like a higher cost ally than normal because of his reducer, and maybe some of his really powerful actions could be priced, because I think he could get the ability to get like resource generators and reducers out easier than some other heroes can, so that you might see a little bit of that balance. But I don't think it's going to be weighted really heavy in the more expensive, because I mean, if you look at like his helmet's just a 1-drop. I don't know from the fan that they showed if I could see the cost. It looks like its element gun's a 3, and that's the only other one I can see. But we don't know what the element gun does because we can't really read anything else off the card. I'm
really hoping that I'm hoping that his kit is low cost, and it's going to allow you to put more of that focus in putting higher cost
allies and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. Higher cost aspect cards into your block, so that way you can use your stuff there. Also, I'm really wanting lower cost cards like that, so I can eliminate the need for on the table when you're building your card tableau in front of you, the resource generating cards. Put 3 tokens on there, and each one is a a strength resource or stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
So that I don't need to put the staples in there. Like, let's hope that after this, this should be coming out after the Guardians box, I believe, right?
Yeah, so probably maybe like a May, June.
Yeah. So let's see, after that Guardians box, let's hope that there's the break from Helicarrier, Avengers Tower, like all of those other staples that we don't need to put in because we're doing this. So that's what I'd hope to see. I also am fingers crossed. I don't know how the play style is going to spin out here. But I'm really kind of shocked that there's no tie-in with the ship right now. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be like his location card. I would be surprised if.
But that's in the ship comes in the Guardian box. You think they're going to reprint it?
I think theme-wise, that's a really good question, because the idea for the campaign, you're building your own. They may leave it. And that's a good point. I feel like they kind of have to make it, even if they just make it like a location. They don't have to make it like the ship, but they could say like, like the cockpit, or maybe like his quarters, like his bunkers area that he stays on the ship could be like his, his little resource. He pops out to chill and unwind. It's like his alter ego booster, just like Captain America has his apartment.
Yeah, I mean, the Milano is it is an aerial. It is an aerial trait.
Yeah, and sorry, real quick to add, because we're getting to the end of this video here. Another thing they did mention in the pack, if you didn't catch it in the article, is they are going to be releasing a card that triggers off the aerial trait for all 4 aspects. So we're likely to see some stuff that's going to give him aerial, because he's going to have his rocket boots, right, and stuff like that. You got to see mixed in. So he may have some things that bite off aerial. But it's also good news for people like who love Iron Man and like Captain Marvel. Other things that may buddy off the aerial trait that you can get. So,
any other thoughts, Corey, before we close out here?
Nah, man. Like you, I'm really hyped. I'm excited. I think he's a really cool hero. I think I mentioned this a little bit in our Scarlet Witch episode. A big reason what I'm liking about these cards that kind of have that risk factor and that unknown is I do like how they're removing more and more of like the perfect information scenarios, or where like other people at the table can kind of dictate what you do, to kind of let the player play the game a little bit more. Sometimes in co-op games, you can run the situations where there's like the guy who's like kind of directing everyone of like, you should do this, you should do that. I think this is the best option.
Alpha.
I think having more of these, effects that are a little bit more like unknown and riskier empowers the player a little bit more to really like, have fun and enjoy it, and then takes it to where you can't control everything.
Great points.
So, yeah. So I love that stuff. So,
all right, 2 closing thoughts from your pessimistic reality check friend over here.
Okay, all right, go for it.
Every time Fantasy Flight has put out a actually 99% of the time. No, let's go with 100% of the time. 100% of the time, there's been a preview. The hype that I have felt from the preview has never been the feeling playing. Like it's never transitioned over, and it's always been the exact opposite, right? Ones that I'm like really hyped for, I'm like, oh, okay. I guess, this played exactly as I thought it would do. Not a negative thing, but it just, it wasn't, it's kind of like blah, right? Again, beauty of the game, that so many different heroes and packs out there. Find the play style that works for you. This is not, there's no right or wrong way to play this game. There's just how you want to play this game. So every time I have been down on it, like not down, but like less hyped for a hero, that's the hero that I was like totally surprised about. Every time I'm super excited for a hero, that hero was just like, oh, Okay, thanks. Into my collection, right?
Yeah, I know you've been burned a few times on some of your hype, but I think knowing the heroes you have enjoyed, I think Star-Lord is going to land right for you. If one, it'll open up a deck, a deck archetype you've not really played because you've not liked them under any other hero.
No, I
So
never have been a fan of the allies and the leadership. The second thing I will say about this game is that we have a core set. We've got 2 cycles by the time this comes out, 2 big boxes kind of to play around. Please don't think that this is going to be a beginner hero. This hero, I feel, is going to is one of the more difficult heroes that is going to, because this is a co-op game, change the dynamic of the table. So the other people that you're playing with are going to need to be veteran players as well to understand how to help each other out. They're going to understand how their builds work. So you guys might even want to plan, I'm being Star-Lord. Okay, I'm going to have to throw in, I don't know, something a little more protective or some
heavy justice, good counter, treachery card denial,
some healing or something, right? This is something because of the amount of encounters that if you go buck wild,
the table's gonna hit you.
I'm just saying that I want people to know and prepare that that these encounters are not just going to be encounters that just them get. Right? Like, it could be anybody. You could potentially flip a couple obligations and all of a sudden that game, goes from good times to bad times right quick. Right. But that's going to affect everybody at the table. That's going to affect the experience. So just really, really, really know what you're getting into when you are playing something like this. It's not to shy people away from it, but I'm saying build up to this, because even if nobody's played before, I could see somebody playing Star-Lord and seeing the mechanic. If you're a gamer, you see, okay, this is his mechanic. I have to take these encounter cards. And they might not be, even though they're embracing it and they're playing it right, that could create a bad experience for somebody, and they may not want to come back. Ease them into it. This is not going to be a play with new players kind of build from my perspective. That's what I see.
No. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think we had a similar discussion. Again, we mentioned a lot, like our Scarlet Witch episode, because there's a similar type of mechanic in her deck as well. They definitely seem more geared towards a more experienced group, or a group that you play with on a regular basis that kind of understands everyone and has a feel for it and kind of knows what to expect. So yeah, I agree with you 100% on that.
So that, my friends, is probably the pinnacle hero that, no better way to pick up your 2021 than seeing what Fantasy Flight has in store for us out the gate. If this is a sign of things to come, this game is in such good hands, in such a good state. Really excited to take Peter Quill, even though it will be backwards, or who knows with releases these days. Maybe wait it out. Right? Maybe get that Guardians big box and just wait for Peter Quill, right? That's right. See that happens. Going to be like a 4-month wait in between, but who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
Right. It also means we're probably going to see more Guardians coming, so hopefully we'll get the whole team, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All of them. All.
Yeah. Sweet.
Thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in to our impressions and our breakdown of Peter Quill Star-Lord. We got a lot more coming this year, a lot more fun happening on the channel. Stick with us. This is Bad Publicity Gaming. We'll catch you on the next one.